K. It's a letter that will forever be sewn into the fabric of North Carolina basketball lore. Michael William Krzyzewski stands just 5 feet 10 inches tall. Over the past 42 years has become a giant in a sport where 7-footers are coveted. As Coach K gets ready for retirement, we want to take a look back at his lasting legacy. The players, the wins, the Final Fours, championships, even gold medals, and all the great things he's done away from the court. Mike Krzyzewski conquered the world of basketball. He helped make the Atlantic Coast Conference a powerhouse, spanning 5 decades. And you'd think we need a week's worth of Ken Burns-style documentaries to give him proper credit to all he's done in his career. But what Ken Burns does in a week, our own J.B. Ricks delivers in 3 minutes on the nose.
Can you believe it was 42 years ago when a young, fresh-faced coach out of Army was given the reins of a Duke program that had just come off of 3 consecutive NCAA tournament berths? But they wanted more, and Mike Krzyzewski delivered. The man who would later become known as Coach K struggled through his first few years, but finally he got Duke back to the NCAAs in 1984, and he never looked back. Through the remainder of the 80s, K led the Blue Devils to 4 Final Fours while coming up short in the national title game twice. But in 1991, he and the Blue Devils finally broke through, and K's dominance began by winning the national championship in back-to-back years. After a 1-year leave of absence in 1995 due to health reasons, he returned to his post and proceeded to lead Duke to the national tournament for 24 consecutive seasons. The Blue Devils made their triumphant return to the mountaintop in 2001, earning his 3rd national title. 2 more would follow in the 2010 and 2015 seasons, giving him a grand total of 5 entering his final year as a head coach. The 5 national titles put him in the discussion for the greatest coach of all time, but his success with Team USA in the Olympics took him to another stratosphere. After failing to attain gold in 2004, United States basketball called on Coach K to right the ship. Along came the Redeem team in 2008, followed by gold medal winning teams in 2012 and 2016. He is the only head coach to lead the U.S. to 3 consecutive Olympic golds. And when you tack on his FIBA World Cup titles, Coach K finished as the most decorated national team head coach with 6 gold medals. A 2001 enshrinee to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, Coach K's accolades are endless. From 1997 to 2006, his Blue Devils finished in the AP Top 10 for 10 consecutive years. Their win over Pitt on Tuesday gave him 13 ACC regular season championships to go with his record 533 ACC victories. He also has the most ACC tournament championships with 15. His 12 Final Four appearances are tied for the most in NCAA history. In 2015, he became the first coach in history to amass 1,000 victories, and he did it at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Heading into his final game at Cameron Indoor, he currently sits with 1,196 victories, which makes him far and away the winningest head coach in college basketball history. His legend speaks for itself, but the GOAT title for greatest coach of all time is undisputed.
Now, a true lasting legacy requires some adversity, or in Coach K's case, an adversary. Whether you're on Tobacco Road or off the planet, you've heard about Duke, Carolina. Coach K has faced 5 Tar Heel coaches during his tenure. He'll end his career with a winning record in the Battle of the Blues. K starting against Dean Smith and some great Tar Heel teams in the early 80s. Players names like Michael Jordan and James Worthy, just to name a few. The rivalry a little one-sided after Dean retired, but things heated up once again when Roy Williams came to town, both programs winning 3 national titles apiece since the turn of the century. Our own Mike Topper takes a look at their legacy.
Well, there's one man who had plenty of battles against Coach K inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, and that was former North Carolina head coach Roy Williams. Don't count on Roy Williams as one of the folks who will be in attendance for Saturday night's game, but it's not why you think.
I'd like to show Mike respect, but I'm not going to show Mike respect if I'm standing over cheering like crazy for us to beat him to death.
UNC and Duke have had countless classics with Roy and Coach K at the helm. There was, of course, the Austin Rivers buzzer beater back in 2012. My personal favorite memory covering the rivalry was Wendell Moore Jr.'s putback in overtime to give the Blue Devils a win in Chapel Hill in 2019. All told, Williams finished 18-22 against Duke while head coach at Carolina. Since 2003, the Tar Heels have won 3 national titles to Duke's 2. Both men are in the top 5 of Division I men's basketball's all-time coaching wins, with Coach K, of course, standing alone at number 1. But despite their on-court battles, Roy had some kind words to say about Coach K on Thursday morning.
He's meant a great deal to college basketball, a great deal to college coaches, and his career, what he's done, has just been phenomenal, and I congratulate him, and I hope North Carolina wins.
Any advice to him as he enters his retirement?
I don't think Mike Krzyzewski needs advice from Roy Williams on anything.
And you gotta believe that Coach K wants nothing more than to win his final game inside Cameron, and to do it against his biggest rival in the Tar Heels. Reporting from Durham, Mike Toper, Spectrum News 1.
Tope, thanks for that. Old Roy and Coach K, great rivals with some great respect for each other as they brought championships and a lot of incredible talent to their programs. Now, under Coach K, Duke has sent a lot of players to the NBA. In 42 seasons, 72 players have heard their names called during the NBA draft. 15 were top 5 selections and 3 number 1 overall picks. Most recently, Zion Williamson, Kyrie Irving, and Elton Brand, now the general manager for the Philadelphia 76ers. While the NBA is typically the dream for the caliber of players who get to play for Duke, many of the standouts under Coach K went on to coach alongside him, and many times against him, like current Pitt head coach Jeff Capel, who lost to Coach K Tuesday night. Capel was K's point guard for 4 years in the 90s. He joined the Blue Devil staff in the 2011 season, eventually being named associate head coach until leaving for Pitt in 2018. Capel talked about his relationship with Coach K that has spanned the 47-year-old's entire adult life.
You know, I never thought at 18 years old, you know, that as I got older in my 40s, that the guy that I chose to play for would become a friend. And that's what it was. He was a mentor and all of those things, but there was a genuine and true friendship. And to be able to see kind of how he does things behind the scenes. And there would be so many times I'm in a meeting, or a lot of times Coach and I would end up together recruiting, you know, whether it's on a plane or in a car. And he would talk, and I would, you know, he'd talk about different things. And in my head, I'd think back like, wow, that makes sense now. Like, this is, you know, what he did when I played. Like, this is what he said, or what he said to me, or what he said to a teammate, or what he did in the locker room. Like, it makes sense. And so you got to see it in a different light. You got to learn, you know, a different way, different lessons when I worked for him, you know, compared to when I played.
Coming up, we look at some of the amazing moments of Coach K's career and hear from some of the coaches and fans who helped make it all happen.
I think the compete every day, the daily edge that he has to want to be good and want to be better, as much in May or June or July in recruiting as during the season. And what I always tip my cap to with Mike is he still has that 75, I believe, right? I mean, he still wakes up wanting to fight somebody and beat somebody. And you know, the compete every day and the edge was really good for me to be around for 8 years to get me ready when I became a head coach in '95.
Longtime Notre Dame head coach Mike Bray on Coach K's legacy. Now, whether you love or hate Duke, a lot of basketball fans are all wondering what's next. That includes the fans in the media. Our Sarah Glasgow spoke to one fan who also happens to be one of the people responsible for getting Duke games on the radio.
The man,
Coach K,
the myth,
Coach K,
the legend.
and Coach K.
Josh Graham.
When I think about K's legacy, I view him as one of the greatest college basketball coaches ever, but also as the most polarizing figure in college basketball history.
From watching Duke basketball in the stands as a kid to reporting on games from the sidelines for 3 years at the Triad's only sports radio station, WSJS, one aspect when covering the Blue Devils has always been a constant for Josh Graham. Mike Krzyzewski, or as many people know him, Coach K.
Probably the most intimidated I've ever been asking somebody a coach or a player question was the first time I asked Coach K a question. I was a freshman or sophomore in college.
Graham hopes that whether you're a Duke supporter or not, that basketball fans give Coach K his due when he takes the court this weekend.
I hope on Saturday night we're able, people that hate the guy or, are just indifferent, even though it's hard with polarizing figures to be indifferent. You either love or hate him. You put that aside and celebrate what the guy's meant for the sport more than anything else.
As Graham would say,
in America, we love a good villain. And Coach K might be the greatest villain in college sports history, at least college basketball. The only reason that happens is if the brand is big and if people care about it. And I don't think people care about it as much if you're not as great consistently as Coach K has been.
Coach K continues that growth by claiming another banner for Cameron Indoor. On his last road game, K clinched at least a tie for the ACC regular season title for his team. His 13th, but the first one since 2010. But even during that conference drought, you never forgot the face of the Blue Devils and what K represented.
If you've lived in other parts of the world or other parts of the country, odds are you've seen, regardless of how big or small it is, how big of a brand Duke basketball is.
Coach Krzyzewski's 5 national championship banners will hang forever inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, each with their own special place in college basketball history. In 1991, it was Bobby Hurley's alley-oop to Grant Hill as the Blue Devils topped Kansas for their first ever national title. The next year, it was Hill, Hurley, and Christian Laettner dismantling Michigan's Fab Five, the last time anybody's gone back-to-back. In 2001, it was Jason Williams' dagger 3 over Arizona. 2010, Gordon Hayward's famous half-court prayer that went unanswered, just barely. And most recently, in 2015, it was a coming out party for a little-known freshman named Grayson Allen that made the difference against Wisconsin. Duke has more championship moments than most programs could even dream of. And it's fair to say they're all tied for #1 in the hearts of Blue Devil fans everywhere. But the Mike Krzyzewski era and college basketball overall is about so much more than just cutting down the nets. It's about all the other heart-stopping moments along the way that make each game, each season, so very intoxicating. It's these moments that keep us, as fans, craving more. And perhaps no coach in history has delivered more of them than Coach K. And with that in mind, we took on the impossible task of selecting the 5 very best moments of Mike Krzyzewski's career outside of those 5 national championships. Number 5, you knew that one of these had to be against North Carolina, right? Duke's 85-84 win over the Heels in 2012, forever known as the Austin Rivers game. But it's about more than the iconic buzzer beater. Duke had to rally from a 10-point deficit with 2 minutes 38 seconds to play in Chapel Hill just to give Rivers the chance to be a hero. Then the star freshman delivered. His game-winning 3 as time expired stunned the Smith Center crowd into silence and earned one of the most incredible wins under Coach K by 1. Number 4. Okay, we're kind of cheating here, but an Olympic gold medal is not technically the same as a national championship. That's why we're including the 2008 Redeem team on this list. Team USA coming off a disappointing bronze medal finish in 2004's Olympic Games, when Coach K essentially tasked with saving the national team. And that's exactly what he did. Under Coach K, Team USA recaptured gold in 2008 and then won again in 2012 and 2016. Coach K's career record with Team USA in the Olympics, perfect at 24-0. Number 3, and hey look, another miraculous comeback. This one happening in 2001 against another then ACC rival, Maryland. And it's simply known as the Miracle Minute. Second-ranked Duke down at 10th-ranked Maryland inside of a minute to play when point guard Jason Williams pulled off the following sequence: layup, steal, three-pointer, three-pointer. Another Blue Devil, Nate James, would go on to hit 2 game-tying free throws to force overtime and essentially seal Maryland's fate. Duke won the game 98-96 in the extra session. Number 2, and it's not often that Mike Krzyzewski's Duke teams are thought to be outmatched, but that was the case in the 1991 Final Four against UNLV. Running Rebels were undefeated, averaging nearly 100 points per game, and had slaughtered Duke in the tournament the year before. Blue Devils flipped the script this time around, outlasting UNLV 79-77. To this day, it's considered one of the biggest upsets in Final Four history and paved the way for Duke and Coach K's first ever national title. And number 1, there should be no argument here. The shot is quite possibly the most famous and iconic singular moment in college basketball history. 1992 regional final. Devils had battled into overtime with another blue blood, Kentucky. The Wildcats up one with 2.1 seconds to go, and, well, you just saw what happened. Grant Hill, full court pass to Christian Laettner, caught it, turned around, and beat the buzzer with a game winner that will outlive us all. Coming up on Coach K's lasting legacy.
I love Duke. It's part of my life.
We meet the superfan who can put the most diehard fanatics to shame. His Cameron crazy record that may be unbeatable. Coach K's legacy extends way beyond the basketball court. For the last 4+ decades, he's given back to his community, like the Emily K Center in 2006, named after his mom. This community center mission is to inspire students to dream big. And the money a national program has brought into the region will continue to help. Of course, ticket prices for Coach K's final home game are through the low roof of Cameron Indoor Stadium on StubHub. An upper-level ticket was being sold for $75,000. Carringhouse, a nonprofit in Durham, is hoping to get in on the high ticket demand. Thanks to an anonymous donor, it raffled off 2 Duke Carolina tickets for just over $19,500. Carringhouse provides affordable housing for Duke cancer patients.
We didn't want to miss the opportunity to auction off these tickets, that being Coach K's final season and the last game in Cameron. We knew it was a great opportunity, so we tried to figure out how can we make good use of these tickets. So we decided to just put them online and auction them off and see what happens.
Every cent raised from the winning bid will go towards helping the Carringhouse and its patients. It goes without saying there are quite a few people who consider themselves mega fans of Duke, but not everyone has been deemed the #1 Duke fan in America by a national publication, all because of a towel. Our own Amy Elliott introduces us now to a Durham man who can make that claim.
I welcome to my Duke room.
If anybody's going to have a Duke room in their home, it's Herb Neubauer.
I've been lucky enough to be featured in a lot of articles, but one that really makes me feel good is an article in the New York Times that called me the #1 fan, and just super fan, if that's the right word.
Superfan sums it up. If you've been to a Duke game in the last several decades, you've probably seen him twirling a towel around his head, giving him the moniker Crazy Towel Guy.
I'm Herb Neubauer, Duke's Crazy Towel Guy.
It all started when the Duke alum started wearing a blue leather hat to the basketball games.
But in '94, I had a fire in Durham and lost everything I owned, including my hat. So I said, well, I'm going to still take, it was still hot there in Cameron without the AC, so I decided to continue to take my towel.
Before he knew it, students were cheering him on at every game, asking for him to show off his talents, which ended up earning him fame.
A great time with it, you know, it's relating to the students and fans, and, you know, I think people know my passion.
At one point, he even sold specialty towels, raising money for charity. Neubauer has attended every single Duke home game since 1984, except for a single one when snow kept him from safely arriving at Cameron Indoor.
I love Duke. It's part of my life. Ever since I first set foot on there in 1959 as a student. God, I'm old.
And while Coach K is departing, Neubauer plans on being in the stands, towel in hand, for years to come.
Coach K, I'm happy for him. 42 years, boy, we've been blessed by having the best. Let's go, Duke! Come on, Devils, let's go! Beat those Heels! Kill!
Amy, thank you. And get this, in 2019, Neubauer attended every single home game by every team at Duke, sometimes going to as many as 5 events in a day. Longtime fan. And speaking of a long time, let's take a look at the timeline. March 18th, 1980. It's when Mike Krzyzewski took over as the head coach at Duke. A lot has changed since then, and we're about to show you just how much. On March 18th of 1980, Dallas and Dukes of Hazzard were the top TV shows in America. Queen's Crazy Little Thing Called Love was #1 on the Billboard music chart, and the average price for a gallon of gas in the United States had just gone over $1 for the first time ever. And we're just getting warmed up. The miracle on ice had happened just 25 days prior to Lake Placid Winter Games. Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan were locked in a U.S. presidential race, and the Rubik's Cube was the most popular birthday or Christmas gift. For some perspective on North Carolina sports at the time, the state had no professional sports teams in the 4 major American leagues. In fact, the Charlotte Hornets were still 8 years away from being founded. Meanwhile, Duke basketball, over 75 years of existence, had been to 4 Final Fours and had 0 national championships. Of course, under Mike Krzyzewski, they've been to 12 Final Fours and won it all 5 times. It's been quite a journey, 42 seasons, but it's not over yet. We have much more on Coach K's final home game coming up right here on Spectrum News 1. Up next, we kick off our special pregame show. I'll join Caroline Blair live from Duke's campus with updates from Mike Topper and J.B. Ricks and a look at the fans. After the game, back for reactions and celebrations. And then tonight at 10 o'clock, a special hour-long edition of the Chevrolet Sports Night. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll see you in Durham.